What's going on, great people? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Give you some time for you to come on in. It's amazing to have you here. Amazing to have you here. Oh. No, I need something. Well, that's good. It's good. Amazing to have you here. Give you some time for you to come on in. Hope you guys are doing great. Oh, almost there, I guess. So I can be able to monitor some of the things. What's going on, those of you all who are watching? All 13 of you. I love it. Let's just go on ahead and go live and talk about it. Share the live feed. Got a few things to talk about with this. What's going on, Floyd P? Cameron Mitchell. You said, love the name quoted from Bad Boys. You said, what's up, Mike? I think it's mighty convenient you got banned from Facebook. Yes, it is just that. I can't make this up. I got the headphones on because I'm also recording my podcast now. So you said the trial is already a mess. So was the EMT supposed to be an expert witness? We're going to talk about that too. I swear to God. You said another great night in the loo. All right, we're going to talk about that too. So share this. And of course, I want to interact with you guys too. So I'm going to go ahead and start the recording of my podcast. Okay. All right. Hey, what's going on? You're back on another episode of On the Mic with Mike. I am your podcast host, Instructor Mike. You can follow me on Facebook at Instructor Mike. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Yes Mike Said It. Subscribe to my YouTube page, Instructor Mike. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell for notifications. Let's go on ahead and dive right into it. So, the case of the state of Minnesota versus Derek Chauvin has been going on. It's been going on since Monday. And we've been watching the trial. And those of you all who've been watching the trial, we've been watching. I've been watching it on YouTube on Law and Crime Network. Shouts out to them at Law and Crime Network. They've been doing an amazing job by posting gavel-to-gavel coverage of this trial. And I think that was something that's amazing because you got a lot of people who've been talking about, justice for, George Floyd, justice for George Floyd, but won't even watch the voir dire, the process that it takes to even get up to the stage where, the trial commences. Now, before we go into that, let's have a conversation on bias, okay? I just want you to know right off top, I am biased. I'm not going to sugarcoat it whatsoever. I am biased. But I begin to think about some things. It seems to be that in the present state of affairs where we are, and those of you all in the comments on YouTube, I will, go back and look at some of the comments and things like that. So just even if you got to keep on saying them over and over again, yes, I will get to you, okay? But let's talk about bias. We are biased folks. You come into this world without bias, and then you end up with bias. So when we look at the definition of bias, I'm going to go ahead and type this up so that way I can read it verbatim, and then I'm not, seemingly making any of this stuff up, because there are different definitions out there. You got people that are defining it by political, reasons and meanings. So we're going to go ahead and go to the Merriam-Webster's definition of bias. And of course, this is on www.merriam-webster.com. Bias definition is an inclination of temperament or outlook, especially a personal and sometimes unreasoned judgment, prejudice. Okay. Let's go to bias, the definition of bias at dictionary.com. A particular tendency, trend, inclination, feeling, or opinion, especially one that is preconceived or unreasoned. Illegal bias against older job applicants, a magazine's bias towards art rather than photography, or strong bias in favor of the idea. Okay. And then Psychology Today, I'm just going to go just a few more definitions. Bias is often characterized as stereotypes about people based upon the group to which they belong, and or based on an immutable physical characteristic they possess, such as their gender, ethnicity. I think that bias, I like the Wikipedia. Don't laugh at Wikipedia. Shouts out to Wikipedia. But I will sit there and say that, yes, I agree, Jaime Gentle. I hope I said your name correct on YouTube. Everyone has bias. And if you use the word wrong, it can be called racism, sexism, basically any ism. I think that we all have bias. So let me explain. Let me give you a perfect analogy before we get into this George Floyd trial, because I want to talk about jury selection, because you need to understand, or I would like for you to understand where I'm coming from, so that you can understand how I form some of the ideas and the opinions that I have, right? 1, 2 plus 2 is 4, correct? Obviously, the answer would be yes. So if you were on a jury, right, you went to school, you learned that 2 plus 2 is 4, you learned that within the order of operations, given that plus sign, the field that we are talking about, given that the field within school is mathematics, you learned that 2, that plus sign, and 2 means that you have to add the integers, not combine them, right? And so you have that education. Then beyond that, you learned and continue to use what you've learned to confirm over and over and over again that 2 plus 2 is 4. In fact, if I owed you $4, I'm sorry, Jaime, yes. In fact, if I owed you $4 and I gave you 3, you're smart enough to know that I'm missing $1, 4 quarters, right? 10 dimes, 20 nickels, you get it, right? So if I told you 2 plus 2 is 5, you would be biased against that answer, right? Because you are biased by your education first, and then your experience second, right? You would be biased by that. And so that education and experience would make you biased towards that opinion. So no matter how strongly I said 2 plus 2 is 5, your bias against what I am saying would make you a part of a separate group of smart folks within the context of that particular thing to know that this is true and that I am wrong. No matter how emphatic I am about it, no matter how much I may cry about it, no matter how much I may plead about it, I am wrong. I am biased by my ignorance. You are biased by your experience. Will we agree on this? Right? And so let's take that to the jury. Now, Judith and Dan Davis says the trial should be in a different jurisdiction. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. And here's the reason why. I heard the judge's analysis on why he didn't grant change of venue, because that did come up in a motion hearing. See, for those of you all, again, shouts out to Law and Crime Network. Please go to them, subscribe to them, hit that bell for notifications. I like them because they're just reporting it. You don't get that extra media stuff. It's just the trial. It's just the trial. And so you look at that and you begin to see, if you've been watching all 10 videos, and you can go back and watch them. Look at the voir dire. In voir dire, which is jury selection, you see that most people were getting their information from the media. They had never been in law enforcement. They have no real understanding of law enforcement training. And when you think about the George Floyd case, or the, not George Floyd, but you think about the Derek Chauvin case, this is going to come down to experience and education, and what, if anything, the officer knew at the time of his actions, was trained to do at the time of his actions, and other subsequent things that took place before Derek Chauvin applied the restraint technique to George Floyd. And so I think, no, the judge wasn't wrong on that. Yeah, I don't think the judge wasn't wrong on not granting change of venue, because he made thank you for that, Cornbread 419. Thank you, said love you, instructor Mike. You're the man. North Georgia checking in. Thank you very much for that. There is no place in the world that has not heard about what the media put out about the George Floyd case. I don't think there's any place you can go, where he would get a fair trial. That's one. Two, I find it troubling that if this is a case involving police procedure, I find it troubling that law enforcement officers cannot serve on the jury, because we are automatically deemed to be biased because of our experience. I think that's horrible. I think that's absolutely horrible. If we're talking about having a jury of one's peers, not one person on that jury is a law enforcement officer. In fact, if you were to pull the jury and ask them the question, the right of the people to be secured in their persons, houses, papers, and effects and things against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. What, if anything, did I just quote verbatim? I guarantee you well over half, if not 3/4 of the jury would not be able to let you know that this is the Fourth Amendment. If I were to ask you to give me the holding in the case of Terry versus Ohio, 392 U.S. 1, 1968, or Graham versus Connor, or Tennessee versus Gardner, or Miranda versus Arizona, 384 U.S. 436, 1966. If I were to ask you to tell me what's Pennsylvania versus Mims, what's Maryland versus Wilson, what are these things? If you don't know the building blocks, how can you be able to be, as the judge so eloquently said it over and over again, how can you be the trier of fact if you don't have a base of factual knowledge to be able to discern between 2 + 2 is 5 and 2 + 2 is 4? You don't have a base of knowledge. So basically, what you have is a jury that is made up of those who both sides want, in as much as they can get it, to believe one side or the other. This is Instructor Mike. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with On the Mic with Mike. I had to pause that on my podcast. I'm about to start it right back up. We're going to continue with these points. Give me one hot minute. By the way, let's continue. I'm going to read some of your comments here. Chrissy Mayberry said, I felt like the judge should have stepped in today when the young man Donald Williams was being disrespectful back to the defense lawyer. He let that back and forth go on too long. I agree, Chrissy Mayberry. Shouts out to you. You are absolutely correct. Bob the Snow Dog, Instructor Mike, any plans to have a stream with B. Tatum? I can reach out to him and find out. He's a great person. I've seen some of his analysis on the Breonna Taylor case. It was great. It really was. Let me go on ahead and add this to the episode, and then we'll go on ahead and continue, because I don't want to miss any of my points, especially as they're going along in my head. I think it's very important to stay on topic. So here we go. Let's get back to it. All right, we're back with On the Mic with Mike. I'm your podcast host, Instructor Mike. For those of y'all just following us, we're on YouTube right now. We're talking about the state of Minnesota versus Derek Chauvin case, and we're just doing a couple of reacts at after the couple of days of the trial and the witnesses that they have up. And I just really, yeah, absolutely. Repeating one comment from Christy Mayberry, shouts out to you on YouTube. And those of you all who are watching on YouTube, just go on and hit that like button, hit the subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, share the stream, get more people into it, because this is a conversation that definitely needs to be had. Let's continue in. I just think that when we look at bias, we're going to get to that, Jaime. We're going to get to that. Can we talk more about the EMT wearing her work uniform? Oh my God, that pissed me off. I'm sorry, you podcast listeners. If you were in the car, you had to turn down your volume. I'm sorry about that, but that was just horrible. I mean, let me stay on track. Y'all keep reminding me. Just let me get there, okay? I just think that it is fair to say that we are all biased. We are biased by the collection of our education and experience. And if I am experienced to have learned one thing and then having done something else, I'll give you a prime example, and then we're going to go ahead and get into the trial, because that's definitely something important to talk about. I think that I think that if we look at it from a law enforcement perspective, let's just say there was a jury of all law enforcement officers. The difference between a city police officer and a suburban police officer, the difference between a police officer and a corrections officer, the difference between a court deputy and a corrections officer, let's just say in Cook County. You see what I'm saying? The difference between a state trooper and a city police officer. There are even differences in law enforcement. And so one thing reigns for sure. You're going to see some expert testimony by someone from the Los Angeles Police Department. You're going to see some expert testimony by someone from another police department. You're going to see some expert testimony by this person who's a use of force expert. You got the president of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, who is either a current or former United States Secret Service federal agent. Anyone who's in law enforcement who is a trainer or even just knowledgeable about how different law enforcement officers train. No two departments are the same. You got different departmental policies. You got different departmental practices and procedures. You have different departmental training. You got so much. Having been a use of force trainer for quite some time, you've got so many different ways to skin a cat. You got PPCT, you got ASP, you got Monadnock, you got so many different perspectives in so many different ways. Chokeholds are allowed here, then they're not allowed here. Then you got it's just so many different procedures. This department issues all their firearms. Well, this department will only allow you to use 9mm rounds with this type of firearm. Then it's so many different procedures and so many different ways and so many different reports and so many different policies. Hell, you're just biased by the limits of your experience. I have always been of the opinion that we are the collection of our education and experience. Christy Mayberry, thank you very much. Everybody, make sure you are sharing this. This is a conversation that needs to be had, because this is something that is not being paid attention to. And I agree with you, Reggie Clark. I'm pretty sure that he did what was in Minneapolis policy at the time. If you listened to the opening arguments, let's go on ahead and dive into it. Okay, now this is not I'm just gonna be me. Let's just go on ahead and they change so often. You are correct. Now, somebody tell me where this magical prosecutor came from. Doesn't this look kind of OJ-ish? If you all remember the case of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, otherwise known as the trial of the century. You remember when the prosecution, Marsha Clark and the other gentleman, you remember when, all of a sudden they brought out Christopher Darden. Like, where did this magical Negro come from? And that is not a racist thing. I'm just going to say that was just the attitude of the time. Because I watched voir dire. I did not see his face at all. Now, correct me if I was wrong. Maybe it was somewhere hidden. I don't know. But well played on the state of Minnesota to bring out a black man to remind them in their subconscious that this case is about race. That's what the prosecution is hinging their hat on. And this gentleman kept saying 9 minutes and 29 seconds. 9 minutes and 29 seconds. 9 minutes and 29 seconds. 9 minutes and 29. He just kept hinging on that. 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Good on him, the defense attorney for Derek Chauvin, to say this is more than 9 minutes and 29 seconds. And I want you to understand something about this attorney. Some of you all watching the trial, I've been looking at the comments on Law and Crime Network. Okay, I want you all to understand something. Stop expecting him to rush through his defense. You calm your asses down. Stop expecting him to rush through his defense. I want you to understand that as an instructor, right? And not all instructors are the same. But I want you to understand, as an instructor, I can appreciate his approach. He does not come off as mean-spirited. He does not come off as trying to vigorously attack them, even though that's what he is doing. He does not come off as that. To me, when I heard his opening, and you can go back and watch it, I want you to understand something that Johnny Cochran said when he was defending OJ. The jury doesn't, what is evidence? The jury doesn't care about evidence. Juries like stories. Stories help them connect. Our job is to tell the story better than the other side tells theirs. What a brilliant way. And OJ did that shit. But he was found not guilty. Why? Because Johnny Cochran had a better way to connect to the triers of fact. Now let's examine these triers of fact. What in the hell do they know about police procedure? What do they know about police procedure? Nothing. And so that's what this defense attorney is doing. He is piecing up the story. In essence, or in other words, he is educating the jury. I can appreciate that. He's educating the jury. He's not coming off as snobbish. He's not coming off as a know-it-all. Even when he was attacked on the stand by the other guy, I can't think of his name. He just said his name. Donald Williams, I guess that's his name. Even when he was attacked by him, this gentleman right here, on cross-examination, asking him about his martial arts techniques and things of that nature, right? He maintained his calm and allowed Donald, I think Clark or Williams or something to that effect, allowed him to go off and fly off like the handle. Great job. Great job. I just say it's a great job. Nelson, I'm going to read the comment from Peter Dewey on YouTube. Shouts out to you, sir. Nelson has been picking apart every witness so far, and that was a great move on not crossing the 17-year-old so that the jury didn't see the defense come off as a bully. Absolutely. 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 Great job. Those of you all who are watching, go ahead and share this. Subscribe. Hit the like button. Let's get into the conversation. I'm reading the comments. Let me go back through here. I want to be able to read some more of your comments, and then we're going to go on ahead and continue. Okay. For those of you all just joining in, this is Instructor Mike, live on my podcast as well. You can go to Apple, Spotify, any place where you can find podcasts. Go to your app store, go to the Google Play Store and look for the podcast On the Mic with Mike, and go back and listen to some of my past episodes too. Amazing. Okay, amazing. And I might just put myself on a pedestal. I don't need to do that. I try to stay humble as much as I can. So not trying to come off like that. But let me go back to some of your comments. Brittany Nova on YouTube. Honestly, the witnesses just made me realize how dumb some people are. God. I mean, and you know what? Jury service is a great thing. But I think that when it comes down to cases like this, when you're talking about the need for education and experience, everyone is biased. You're not going to get rid of bias, right? Trevor Noah even said it himself, the host of The Daily Show. And I want you to understand, I'm going to quote some names when I begin to talk about certain people. You know, you may not agree with the person, but you understand you don't have to like the person who is teaching you a lesson, right? You don't have to like that person. And when you concentrate on liking them, you miss the message. So let's get to it. Trevor Noah, host of The Daily Show, he said racism cannot survive contact. Why? Because typically you are biased by what you are taught about people of a different skin color, be it white folks, black folks, Asians, Hispanics, whatever. But the minute you meet someone that is different than what you've been taught, automatically it begins to check that bias that you have, and then your opinion begins to change. Sorry about that. Your opinion then begins to change. Hold on 1 minute. Sorry about that. Okay. I got cut off because I had a phone call come through. All right. All right, we're back. Yes, your opinion begins to change. Sorry about that. So, continuing, right? Once you begin to talk about that, and I done lost my point where I was at. Let's go ahead and continue. I'm going to read some of your comments here too. Ego is a dangerous weapon. You're right, Cameron. Nelson is definitely slow playing their defense and letting the state's witness self-destruct. And that is exactly what they did. We got to get, before we even get to the EMT with her uniform on, we got to go ahead and get to Miss Heavy Eyelash here. Now, I don't remember her name, and I'm not trying to disrespect her or anything like that. But hey, when you wear certain stuff to court, by God, then you put yourself in that position to be called certain things. I believe she was the one who was one of the main ones who recorded the video that went viral and caused what we have today. Not saying that without that video, he would not have been, arrested and tried or whatnot, but she is the one that recorded the video. If she wasn't the